next time.
Vecna is one of the most iconic villains in fantasy storytelling. In Dungeons & Dragons, he's the Whispered One, a lich so powerful he clawed his way into godhood and then lost it again through betrayal and apocalyptic ambition. But in Stranger Things, Vecna is Henry Creel, a traumatized, hyper-intelligent child who turns into a psychic serial killer, gets yeeted into a hell dimension, fuses with a cosmic hive mind, and returns as the architect behind every monster and tragedy in Hawkins. It's two separate Vecnas, both with the same name but completely different mythologies. Both versions slap because they weaponize the same core villain archetypes. You know, like corruption, evolution, betrayal, and the pursuit of ultimate control. So today, kids, we're going to take a look at the story of Henry Creel and how he becomes Vecna. Then we're going to look at Vecna's original story in Dungeons & Dragons. From mortal wizard to lich to god, what each version gets right, what a GM can steal to build an incredible campaign villain, and how to fuse both into the ultimate Vecna-style antagonist. In Stranger Things, Henry Creel begins his life in the late 1940s as a quiet, sensitive, social, alienated child. Teachers think he's broken, his father thinks he's fragile, and Henry thinks humanity is a joke, a species trapped in a meaningless cycle of eating, sleeping, reproducing, and pretending clocks matter. His specific villainy begins from nihilistic clarity. He doesn't have cosmic power to begin with. Or does it? There is two conflicting origin stories that emerge. There's the Dimension X version, where Henry stumbles on stolen scientific equipment in a cave and is zapped into another dimension for 12 hours and returns altered with new blood and psychic abilities. Or there's Henry's own version where his powers are innate, discovered slowly in the Creel house in Hawkins, and used to torment animals, manipulate clocks, and psychologically torture his father with wartime visions. Either way, Henry's transformation begins long before the Upside Down. He's already a predator learning how to hunt. And the moment his mother tries to have him fixed, he slaughters his entire family in a display of psychic power, so violent it defines the show's signature kill style, body breaking, eye exploding, horror. And then Henry collapses into a coma from overusing his powers, and that should be the end, but it isn't. Dr. Brenner takes him, numbers him, suppresses him, studies him, and that's what creates Vecna's hatred, the control that Brenner had over him, as well as the hatred he already had for humanity. In D&D, Vecna begins as a mortal wizard, human or half-elf in the earliest recorded days of Greyhawk. He isn't abused or bullied, or even misunderstood. He's just brilliant, cruel, and convinced the world is his to dominate. Where Henry despises humanity for its emptiness, Vecna despises mortality. He's a classic lich story, mastering forbidden magic, may or may not have been taught by the demon lord Orcus, and seeks eternal life because he believes it's owed to him, rejects the inevitability of death, possibly imprisoning his own fate, and transforms into a perfect lich, the most powerful of all. Whereas Stranger Things Vecna is shaped by external trauma and institutional cruelty, D&D's Vecna shapes himself through sheer will, ambition, and obsession. They both fall into villainy in different ways. D&D's Vecna ascends to it, and the difference matters, especially for GMs, because these two villains represent the two great archetypes. Henry is tragedy born evil, and D&D Vecna is ambition born evil. One feels like the world's failed him, and the other wants to break the world because he wants more. Both work, but for different narrative tones. After 11 blast Henry into the Upside Down, he falls through storms, lightning scorches him repeatedly, and his flesh twists, melts, and burns, and his humanity is stripped away piece by piece. And then he evolves into something monstrous, not undead, but reforged. And then the most important moment in Stranger Things lore happens. Henry finds the swirling hive mind cloud, the entity fans once called Shadow Monster, and then he shapes it into the Mind Flayer using the image of the spider he drew as a child. And that single act reframes the entire show, because Vecna isn't the Mind Flayer's lieutenant. He created the Mind Flayer, and he is the mind behind the hive, the architect of every monster in Hawkins. His rise is evolutionary, cosmic, almost mythic, and he becomes the author of all the nightmares we see on the screen. That is if one of his backstories is to be believed. D&D Vecna also undergoes transformations, multiple, but his are all about power and escalation and not physical mutation. After he became a lich, Vecna's arc unfolds like a high fantasy tragedy. He builds a vast empire and takes a half-demon apprentice, Azarak, yes, the Tomb of Horrors guy. He forges the Sword of Cass from the iron taken from a frozen star and tempered in the fires of the sun. And then his lieutenant Cass betrays him. Vecna's body is destroyed, leaving only his hand and eye behind. But Vecna doesn't actually die. His relics gain worshippers, and his legend grows, and his cult expands, and eventually through sheer accumulated myth and worship, he returns as a demigod, and then a greater deity, and then reduced again after a cosmic conflict. Vecna's ascension is metaphysical, political, and divine, whereas Stranger Things Vecna is fused with a dimension, D&D's Vecna is fused with belief, and Henry Creel discovers power through an alien ecosystem, whereas D&D Vecna reshapes the cosmos through cult, myth, and ambition. They both have evolution, but one is about environment shaping the villain, and the other is about a villain shaping the world. And to me, Henry's core philosophy is simple. Humanity is flawed, weak, and parasitic. Trauma reveals truth, pain is transformative, and he targets individuals defined by guilt, shame, or self-hatred, like Chrissy's eating disorder, or Fred's survivor's guilt, or Patrick's abusive home and Max's unresolved trauma. He sees their trauma and uses it as a vulnerability, and opens the wounds he can push his fingers into. And his ultimate goal is a world remade in the Upside Down's image, not random destruction. He genuinely believes he is improving the world and elevating reality into something purer and more honest. Whereas D&D's Vecna is in the pursuit of control, immortality, and dominion. He isn't trying to fix the world, but he's trying to own it. He's trying to escape from mortality, dominate Greyhawk, keep growing his worshippers, and ascend to godhood, and the eradication of competing deities. He wants to control the flow of magic and rewrite the structure of the cosmos. He is the ultimate top-down villain, and he doesn't want to purify anything or care about trauma or transformation. He just wants everything. And that is a key difference between the two. Stranger Things Vecna is ideological, and D&D Vecna is imperial. One of them wants to evolve humanity and the other wants to stand above it. And their powers are wildly different, but so are the amount of magic each world has. Stranger Things Vecna is telepathy, telekinesis, projection of visions, curse-based kills, dimensional rifts, hive mind manipulation, psychic possession, and memory evasion, trauma amplification, and gate creation through ritual murder. His power is half psychic, half extra-dimensional, and deeply personal. Every kill is an act of psychological consumption. He invades your mind first, breaks your will, feeds on your terror, and only then snaps your bones like a cheap plastic. This does make him uniquely terrifying. D&D Vecna powers come from lichdom, forbidden necromancy, the Book of Vile Darkness, from cult worshippers, divine ascension, from cosmic scheming, epic spells and rituals, knowledge theft, death manipulation. Instead of being a psychic predator, this Vecna wields fear, secrets, undeath, and arcane supremacy. He raises armies and reshapes reality, curses continents, and blocks other gods from contacting their followers. While Stranger Things kills individuals to open gates, D&D's Vecna orchestrates global infrastructure for divine takeover. It's pretty apocalyptic. In Stranger Things, Vecna does have a few weaknesses, like music disrupting his psychic trance on his victims. He underestimates Eleven repeatedly. He relies on mental domination, not physical resilience. But we have seen him take a few bullets, I must admit. He has to enter a trance to attack his victims, which makes him vulnerable. And he doesn't understand human connection, and I'm assuming he can't sever his link to the hive. His ego blinds him, and his loneliness isolates him, and his desire for validation undermines him. He's that type of villain who wants understanding and domination simultaneously, and that contradiction is fatal. In D&D, Vecna repeatedly loses because his apprentice Cass betrays him, his own divine schemes backfire, the gods block his ascension, his artifacts escape his control, and his followers are zealots, not thinkers. His ego makes him predictable, he's undone by ambition, he's not really emotional, and he always pushes too far too fast with too much arrogance. And Cass, who is empowered by Vecna's own sword, is the physical embodiment of this hubris. Stranger Things Vecna seems to be defeated through emotional connection, and D&D's Vecna is defeated through narrative irony, which I suppose is fitting for a tabletop RPG. I do think Stranger Things gets a bunch of stuff right to make a great villain. Vecna is personal. Every kill, every vision, every victim. They are all intimate horror, and as a GM, that's chef's kiss. You give your villain a personal relationship with each player. They know their secrets, exploit their guilt, and it makes every fight emotional. And this Vecna evolves with the story. He's a good villain that grows and changes and returns stronger, and reframes the narrative retroactively. It's done in such a way where it doesn't feel boring or repetitive. And he has a clear philosophy. He believes he is right. He doesn't second guess himself or have second thoughts. And never underestimate how compelling that is. He ties the entire world together, with every creature in the Upside Down as his design, his spread, his mind. He is the setting. And it's the same with D&D's Vecna. He is mythic. He's not just a boss fight. He's institutional. And he creates great plot hooks naturally. His hand and eye alone generate entire campaigns. And he's mysterious, which is on purpose. Contradictory to lore, makes him feel larger than canon. And your villain doesn't need one canon, they need fear. And not only that, but he's a god who fights like a lich. And it scales with your campaign. Early rumors, fine. Relics? Great. Occult? Fantastic. A god in the final arc? Chef's kiss. And you can definitely use Stranger Things Vecna in your game's GMs. Psychic horror with personal trauma is unstoppable narrative energy. Some tips I would use is show your player their past mistakes and haunt them with visions. Let the villain talk directly into their minds, and use countdown clocks as rituals for rising tension. Make every kill open a gate or escalate a threat. You want them to feel every loss and every win. Show the villain's worldview with unsettling clarity. Stranger Things Vecna is a masterclass in foreshadowing, psychological warfare, dimensional escalation, system-wide villain logic. He's perfect for campaigns about corruption and trauma, and personal stakes or cosmic horror. And D&D's Vecna is obviously great for campaigns, but he's perfect for ones about forbidden magic and undead empires, or relic hunts, gods at war and apocalyptic outcomes, maybe moral corruption or cosmic secrets. If you want your villains to echo through lore books and magical items and myths and temples, and the fabric of magic itself, D&D's Vecna is perfect for it. But I think something truly magical comes when you fuse the two together. You should give them Henry Creel's personal horror. This is the simplest and most effective upgrade you can make to any big bad. Stop making them a distant cloud on a mountain and make them a presence. They don't want to kill the party, they want to understand the party. They invade memories, they drag up shame, they weaponize guilt. And not in a cheesy way, like I know your backstory. In a predatory way, like the villain has been watching them since session 1, taking notes, waiting for the moment each character is vulnerable. Even if you just did this and nothing else, it would make the villain feel like they were designed specifically for your players. And if you gave them D&D's Vecna's cosmic ambition, you can zoom out. Henry's Vecna wants to remake the world because he hates it, and D&D's Vecna wants to own the world because he believes he deserves it. So your fused Vecna needs a plan that doesn't stop at kill people or open a portal. The plan has to be structural. Something like rewriting a divine contract so the gods can't answer prayers, cutting off the flow of magic and becoming the only source, or turning knowledge itself into a resource he can tax and control, or changing how death works so every soul roots through him. The point of this is, the villain's goal should feel like it changes the rules of the setting, not just the next fight, and make their kills open gates or tear at reality. Stranger Things Vecna kills to create gates. That's brilliant because every murder is both character horror and plot progression. For a campaign, this is the cleanest way to create momentum. The villain isn't killing at random, each death is a ritual step. And you don't even have to do a literal gate, it could be like reality fractures or time skips, areas where memories leak into the world, or places where people forget a person ever existed. The sky behaving wrong like it's trying to unzip. This is how you can make the party feel like the clock's ticking without saying the clock is ticking, you know? And you should give them cults and artifacts and psychological attacks. This is the part where you really fuse the infrastructure. D&D Vecna spreads through cults and relics, and Henry spread through minds. So your hybrid villain spreads through all three layers at once. The cult layer, people who worship the villain knowingly or unknowingly, and the relic layer, objects that carry the villain's influence, like an infection vector, and the mind layer, where nightmares, hallucinations, intrusive memories, and psychic pressure happens. This makes him into a system and not just one enemy. The cult advances the plan in the world, the relics tempt the party and corrupt allies, and the psychic attacks isolate characters and create paranoia, which means that in a sense the villain can win even when they lose fights. And then you tie every monster in the setting back to their influence, which is one of the reasons that Stranger Things Vecna feels so big. He's not just a guy, he's the explanation for the ecosystem. So do the same thing. Your monsters don't all have to be his creations, but they should all be connected to his shadow. Like that necromancer the party fought early was funded by the cult, and the demon they bargained with was carrying one of his keys, and the monster they couldn't explain is a failed experiment, and that friendly NPC's weird dreams were the first symptoms. The goal is that at some point the party looks back and realizes, oh, this has been him the whole time, and that moment is a gut punch. And you've earned it. And let them evolve mid-campaign. Both Vecnas evolve. Henry becomes something else in the Upside Down, and D&D's Vecna forms through death and worship, so your villain should have phases. Not just second form is the boss fight, but evolutionary steps across the campaign. The phases could be anything like the villain loses a body but gains a new method of influence, or the villain's cult gets wiped so he shifts to artifacts, or the party destroys the relic so he shifts to dreams. He can't enter the world yet, so he starts rewriting people. This keeps the villain fresh and terrifying, because the party can't solve him once and be done, and make their philosophy compelling and not just evil. This will make a huge difference. Henry's Vecna has a worldview, D&D's Vecna has a worldview. Even if we hate them, we can see how they got there. Your fused Vecna needs a belief that is simple enough enough to repeat and terrifying enough to feel true in the wrong moment. Something like pain is the only honest teacher, or freedom is a lie people tell themselves. If the god won't fix the world, I will. Everything ends, I'm just accelerating the truth. I don't kill you, I reveal you. And the villain should apply that philosophy consistently, and that's what makes them feel intelligent instead of random. And let the final battle happen in both physical and psychic spaces. And this is where you can really combine the two versions. The final confrontation should not just be initiative order in a room. It should be two battles at once. One party fighting the physical form, cultists, relic engines, whatever. Another party fighting inside the mindscape, memory prison, dream city, broken house. Or the whole party shifting between both, forced to choose what to save. Because you don't want the fight to be, can you do enough damage? You want it to say, can you keep your identity intact? Can you trust each other? Can you resist temptation of knowledge and power? Can you stop the plan even if it means losing something personal? That's the type of final boss energy we're going for. You want this hybrid Vecna to grow with your story. Stranger Things Vecna works because he's personal, and D&D's Vecna works because he's bigger than any one story. And if you combine the two together, it becomes more than just a fight. You get a villain who can follow the party for an entire campaign without ever getting stale. So have you ever thought about using Stranger Things Vecna in one of your D&D or other tabletop campaigns? Or have you thought about combining the two together to make something unique like this? Let me know in the comments and share your thoughts and ideas with others so they can use them and improve their own games. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay spicy adventurers.